This campaign is about security in retirement, economic independence and dignity. And we need your strength and guidance to help us through.
We just didn't know you couldn't do it. And it wasn't a consideration. We just sort of, drove forward and decided that this was something that was really going to change the lives of people into the future and change the system, and we were very committed to it.
The Australian retirement income system can be traced back to the early 1900s when the age pension was first introduced. It was a modest benefit of just £26 a year, or 10 shillings a week, and like today, was only available to those most in need.
We could see that our members, in terms of retirement, had the age pension and nothing else. And our aspirations for our members were a lot higher than that. And I really admire the foresight of our leaders back then, people such as Bill Landau, Simon Crean, Greg Sword, that had the courage to run these big disputes, to have the courage to take this to the public, this sort of debate.
In 1978, the Victorian Federated Storemen and Packers Union took up an issue they saw as integral to their members' long-term financial well-being, their right to superannuation. It was clear to the union that blue-collar workers were being locked out of Australia's superannuation system and that nothing was being done about it. The system needed to change, and it would be up to the union to lead the way.
Well, I suppose one of the things the trade union movement has always been good at is advocating new ideas, progressive ideas, a step forward.
They took the view that superannuation in the main was for executives, for the white-collar sector, that if it was to be applied to the blue collar, it was to be applied in a way that kept them captive, kept them hooked into the company where they couldn't leave.
At the end of 1978, the FSPU widened its superannuation campaign with a claim on the Victorian wholesale grocery warehouses sector. One of the largest employers in this sector was Woolworths.
The Storemen and Packers' move towards a superannuation fund is part of a general trend within the trade union movement to going more for fringe benefits rather than simply wage increases. Many employers other than Woolworths are afraid of the consequences. They don't want to be paying contributions to a union-controlled fund.
In March 1979, following months of stalled negotiations, 180 Storemen and Packer union members voted to strike. Woolworths' Victorian warehousing and distribution operations were paralysed. Picketers blocked deliveries across the state and supermarket stocks began to run low.
The timing was right. The company overplayed its hand. We had developed the strategy, the thinking, the logic, the importance of this issue with the members. We had involved them in lots of meetings around it, and they were prepared to fight for it.
They all understood that the existing superannuation system didn't protect them. I mean, it had not been for those men, we wouldn't have been able to achieve what we achieved.
It demonstrated that we could win industrially what we couldn't win politically, so to speak. And it laid the basis for what has been the most significant intergenerational policy change in this country's history, the introduction of compulsory superannuation. But it came out of an industrial campaign.
In September 1985, as part of Accord Mark II, the government agreed to support a productivity claim that would provide a 3% superannuation contribution by employers to an approved superannuation fund. The architect of this claim was ACTU Secretary Bill Kelty.
In terms of superannuation, the national superannuation system, well, there's one person who can take legislative responsibility for it, and that's Paul Keating. Nobody else can. Lots of people played a role, but it was only Paul Keating. Without him, we would not have got it. So he said the department's telling me I can't do it, and the Treasury telling me I shouldn't do it. So I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to do it.
While the ACTU and government focused on superannuation, the FSPU continued its campaign for members, with significant disputes in the oil and paint industries. In July 1986, talks between the FSPU and oil industry employers over superannuation broke down. FSPU pickets at oil terminals and installations stopped deliveries to retail outlets, and more than 600 oil workers walked off the job.
600 storemen and packers walked off the job in Victoria last night in a dispute mainly over superannuation. Picket lines at refineries and terminals have cut off petrol supplies, which are expected to run out within 6 days if there is no rationing.
The odds and evens number plate system came into force today, but it was too late. Panic buying over the weekend made the state government's move on rationing too slow. So when motorists with even numbered registration plates line up for their $10 worth tomorrow, it could see petrol dry up throughout Melbourne.
The oil dispute, another massive dispute about superannuation. Once again, the big oil companies saying, we decide where the money goes, we decide what happens to it. Our members had a different view. It led to large stand-downs of workers, and it took a lot of courage from our leaders to see those sort of disputes through.
The members here were enthusiastic about the settlement. They were very happy, and they overwhelmingly voted to accept it. If their attitude towards it is any guide, then I think the members in the other states will be happy with it also.
It showed that working people, not big incomes, were prepared to fight for superannuation. Not just want it, but prepared to fight for it. That they wanted to exercise that choice.
We could never have achieved this if we had just made simple arguments about why it was unfair, why it needed to change. It needed to have these significant disputes to actually get the momentum going.
When the Federated Storemen and Packers Union established LUCRF as Australia's first true industry superannuation fund in 1978, the lasting significance of its actions could not be known. 30 years later, their ideology and vision, supported and shaped by the ACTU and successive Labor governments, has provided the foundation for the modern-day superannuation system. More importantly, the elitist, secretive superannuation system of old has been permanently replaced by a system of inclusion and equality.
It's been fantastic for us. My wife's been able to retire earlier. You know, she's been retired now for a couple of years, and she can be with the grandkids. And we bought her a retirement place earlier down at Altona that we shifted to, you know, right on the beach. And from being a labourer all my life, I didn't think that was possible.
Basically, I can plan my own destiny. I'm in control of that now, and I've seen my wealth grow where I can go into the future with confidence, knowing I can choose the lifestyle I wish to have in retirement.
The spirit and the relationship that's been developed over these years by a group of people having a common goal has been fantastic.
What the union movement has done through this change is fundamentally done two things. Fundamentally transformed the Australian economy, but it's also provided for ordinary working people to have a real chance at sort of economic dignity once they reach retirement age.